When the Church of England's top brass gathers for their annual Synod next week, leading the agenda will be how to address its safeguarding crisis. As Bishop of London, Dame Sarah Mullaly is one of the Church's most senior figures. She's now speaking for the first time since Justin Welby's resignation, telling this programme that some in the Church aren't aware of their own power and that she's not sure the Church will pick a woman as its next Archbishop. I spoke to her earlier this week. Bishop Sarah, you've been silent on the resignations of Archbishop of Canterbury, Bishop of Liverpool, allegations of bullying and cover-up thus far. Why are you speaking out now?
Well, I haven't been silent on those issues. I've been working within the Church. You know, I'm the sort of person that rolls my sleeves up and tries to move forward. But what I recognise is that the last 3 or 4 months it has become apparent to people the shocking abuse within the Church, and my heart goes out to the victims and to the survivors. And I'm very conscious of, one, the bravery of them coming forward, but also the shocking abuse that that occur to them, and the way in which the Church failed to address it properly. And it means that we all have to, in terms of apologising to them, we have to do something. And next week is the meeting of Synod, and there are some very clear proposals coming around independence of safeguarding, around reforms in clergy conduct measure, and around our governance. And actually, therefore, Synod has to take this seriously. If we're apologising, which we should do, for the abuse that has occurred, we then need to take action to ensure that it doesn't occur again.
I want to come to the issue of what action in a moment, but do you accept that, in the words of the Archbishop of York, the public is disgusted by the Church's failures? It's a strong word, disgusted.
It is strong, but it's appropriate. I think it is horrific, the abuse that some people have had to endure within the Church, and the way in which the Church has not responded correctly to it. And I think people reading it will be disgusted and horrified. And therefore, we have to take that very seriously. And I think that their reaction has to shape the way in which we respond to it. And safeguarding procedures, culture and practice has improved, but it does need a step change. And I think that is what I think that we need to do to restore trust in the Church.
What, in your view, is it about the Church's culture that allowed these repeated failures of safeguarding?
I think historically there has been a culture where I don't think that people have always been aware of their own power. I don't think there has been always transparency. I think there hasn't historically been good procedures around safeguarding. And I also think that accountability is not always clear. We have seen improvement in safeguarding practices, and the proposals coming to Synod about independence is the next step in that. But also I think it's very hard around accountability. In the NHS or the civil service, it's very clear who I was accountable to and what for, and what would the HR sort of processes for dealing with things when they went wrong. And I think in the Church, whilst I swear an oath of canonical obedience, where I part of common tenure, they're not strong enough to hold us to account. And therefore, I think along with the improvement in safeguarding, we do have to take seriously accountability, ensuring that these terrible things will not occur again.
But do you fear that there are still people within the Church who present safeguarding issues, that it isn't just a matter of a few bad people, but there may be people who are still doing the things that you describe as shocking, that Archbishop of York described as disgusting?
I can't guarantee that there aren't, but what I do know is that our safeguarding procedures and structures have greatly improved over the last 10 years. So we have really high qualified safeguarding teams within each diocese. There are parish safeguarding officers in every church, and they work very hard to ensure that the environment in which they are in is safe. And if risks arise, that they are dealt with properly and appropriately. And I do believe that there is no doubt in my mind, we have improved. The proposals at Synod around independent safeguarding is really there to say that taking the advice of the J report to say that those professionals and the structures and scrutiny needs to become independent. And that is building on what we have already done within the church. So I am confident that structures and processes, cultures are better. But it is something I can't guarantee around what is happening in the thousands of churches across this country. But I do believe it is better, and they will pick it up much quicker and manage risks that are there.
Let's talk about the other point you made, which is about accountability. I was very struck by a phrase in your article for the Church Times. You said, "A sword pierces my soul when I reflect on my part. What have I failed to do to prevent this hurt?" Where did you fail?
Well, I think that, I am the sort of person coming into the church as I did, having had a sort of another life before, to share my learning and my reflections around a whole series of things, but also safeguarding, and very much rolling up my sleeves to try and improve our structures, our culture. But what is clear is that we still see that the church continues to fail in both disclosure, in managing disclosures and supporting people. And therefore there is no doubt I have to self-reflect and say, well, where did I not, where was my omission in what I did and what I could have done better in that way? And I think that's where to be part of a church to which I believe I'm called to see the way in which it has hurt and continues to hurt people is a great sorrow for me. And I recognise the hurt that we've caused victims and survivors, and I'm sorry. And the sense of which recognise your failure means that you then have to say, well, where could we do more? So whilst I think the proposals going to Synod begin to move on that way, I think there is more that we could do. It's not just our safeguarding structures, it is our HR structures. It's also around how we're governed. We are still very slow at making decisions and making change. We do have to do more, and we have to do better.
But the reason I was struck by this is that it's such, if I can put it this way, a contrast to what the former Archbishop of Canterbury said in the House of Lords when he spoke of the institutional and personal responsibility in a way that, to most people, felt a little bit like saying, well, I might have been there, but I wasn't particularly involved. By contrast, you said that you bear some personal responsibility.
Well, I feel I do. I am a bishop in the Church of England. I have a cure of souls for example, the Diocese of London, but also a wider role in the House. And I think that we have seen improvements, but as I said, I think we can go further and we can go faster. And so therefore I will play my part in the Synod that's coming next week to make sure that we do pass the motions that relate to independence and the clergy conduct measure. But I also think we have to go further.
All right, well, look, a big signal will be who becomes the next Archbishop of Canterbury. Unless you want to tell me that you're going to be a candidate. Let's come back to that. But look, the question that some people will ask is it time for a woman to be the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Well, to answer your first question, I'm not going to be the Archbishop of Canterbury, and there is a process that is set up to look for the next Archbishop of Canterbury, and you and other people can take part in that process. But I think what we have to be clear about is
By the way, when you say you're not going to be, is that because you don't want to be, or because you think the Church wouldn't accept a woman?
Well, there is a process set up to look at for the next Archbishop of Canterbury. I think it is entirely possible that there may be women in that shortlist. Whether the Church of England will appoint a woman, I am not sure about. But I think what we also have to recognise is that resolving the situation that we're in at the moment, the improvement of safeguarding in our culture, is not down to one person or the Archbishop of Canterbury. That we have to all play our part. So even with a new Archbishop of Canterbury, they will need our support, the support of the House of Bishops, the support of Synod, to bring about the change that we're looking for.
Sarah Mullaly, Bishop of London, thank you.